Good evening and welcome to Undoing I Do with Stephanie and a Day. I am Stephanie Hunnell, the owner of the Hunnell Law Group in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and your co-host for this evening.
And I am Adelola Sherilyn Dow, the owner of the law offices of Adelola Sherilyn Dow in Staten Island, New York. Good Thursday evening.
Good Thursday evening to you. I noticed you slowed down your name.
Yes, because we have a project going on, and the person wanted me to say my name slowly because I just rattle off my stuff. In court, people actually say, "Counselor, slow down," because I get all hyped, I'm all excited. So
Isn't that the best when you're like hyped, whatever it is? I get a little angry about something. All of a sudden, it's like,
right? So I decided to slow it down a bit today.
So how is this lovely Thursday for you?
Man, this Thursday has been busy. This whole week has been so busy. Staten Island courts are popping.
Yep.
I have some Jersey stuff popping off that has Staten Island, what do you call it? Tentacles out, right? And so Staten Island connections. I'm dealing with Jersey attorneys, helping the Staten Island people. It's something else, but I'm having fun. How are you?
Good. I think this has been a really busy year. It has just been nonstop, full throttle the entire year so far, which is great. I'm not knocking it. But I am knocking on wood, so I don't jinx myself.
Right, let's not jinx ourselves. But we're looking forward to helping people resolve their divorces more quickly and to avoid some pitfalls.
Yep. When you put off negotiating your case. So I know you said you have a couple things prepared. So what's your top number one pitfall that we should avoid by not negotiating your case soon enough?
Okay. Biggest pitfall for not resolving your case or getting involved with the negotiation for me is creating a status quo that's way above your means that you cannot possibly sustain just to make the other person happy. Why? Okay, this is twofold. Number one, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, doing all of this stuff, getting all this money in place. You got debts piling up, right? And yet you're living at this means that's really fictional. And then once you start negotiating, it's, oh, but I can't really afford that. Well, how did you afford that all this time? You've been providing a $10,000 a month lifestyle net for the last year, right? Because everybody was quiet. And so you've been providing this lifestyle so that you can keep everybody quiet. But as you're doing that, you're digging yourself deeper and deeper into a hole that you're going to have a hard time getting out of.
Yep. I had a case recently where the husband was doing exactly that and ended up taking out a loan from the 401k in order to make sure that make up for the shortfall. And then when they're going through the divorce, the wife is like, why should I pay for any of this stuff? Well, honey, you've lived that lifestyle and all the money was just funneled right back into the marriage. You guys were living beyond your means. And in my opinion, she opted not to see the fact that his income was not covering, willful blindness.
Willful blindness.
It's a problem.
It's a problem. And then it's going to be, oh, well, I didn't know anything about that debt. Okay, so if you know that your spouse only makes $8,000 a month, but yet you guys have Tessies and Mozzies in the driveway, don't you ever wonder how the heck that's happening? Mm-hmm. And so if the money that is being, borrowed is going to fuel your marital lifestyle, then yeah, you're gonna be somewhat on the hook for that. May not be 50%, we don't know, but you're gonna be somewhat on the hook for that, and you're not gonna be able to say, "Oh, I didn't know." Mm-hmm. It's not gonna work out. That's not gonna work out. Nope. What's your top one?
My top one is when people decide to separate, but they don't negotiate a resolution. And then the next day leads to the next day, and all of a sudden you're 5 years down the road, you've been living separate and apart, and you're now all of a sudden saying, all right, let's make these decisions. Meanwhile, you have 5 extra years of equitable distribution that has been
Stack it
accumulated.
up.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what I was looking for, stacking up.
And 5 more years of marriage, which lengthens your alimony obligation, or in the state of New York, your spousal support or spousal maintenance obligation.
I don't know. People do not realize, or they believe what they see on Google, or their best friend's cousin. Just because you separate doesn't mean that there's a trigger in New Jersey for your marriage end date. Your marriage end date is your date of complaint, unless you have a signed agreement that says, here's what we're doing to resolve our issues.
And it's the same thing in New York, people. Oh, but we've been separated for 10 years. Okay, but the court doesn't know that. And the statutes don't say anything about that. So, and we can't help you with that. Oh, I was afraid to file. I was afraid to do this, or I thought, listen, you should be more afraid of the financial impact of you not filing. And this goes for the spouse who would be receiving as well. Because if you're going to say, oh, he hasn't been giving me money for all of these years, I deserve all of this back pay. Yeah, that doesn't, no. If the person hasn't been giving you money, then they haven't been giving you money, and the court cannot erase what happened in the past. That's not the job of the court.
Right. No, they're going to look at it. They're going to look at that and say, gosh, today I can't talk. They're going to look at that and say, you've been living this life. You've been fine without his or her support. We're not going to go back and say, well, 5 years, we should recalculate this retroactive because you should have been getting X or Y. Not to mention the fact that over that time period, people are gaining debt. What if you get in a car accident? What if you have judgments against you that are now, potentially marital judgments? It's a problem.
Yeah, you have to think about that, people.
Real estate, because you get a judgment against your house, whether or not it's your issue because it's on your house.
Yeah, because it's our house. And so,
Just because you're living in it without him or her, it's still ours.
Right. Most likely. Now, we're talking about houses that were bought during the marriage. Okay. We're not talking about separate property claims and things like that, because that's for a different show.
Yep. But information too, not, oh Lord.
Oh Lord. You know what, John? I might have needed that glass of wine anyway. I don't even drink.
I'm pretty sure at any word John hears, he needs a glass of wine.
Yeah. So my second one is this. When you are engaged in negotiations, you just want everything to be over today. It should have been over. We need to get through. We need to do. He said, are you judging? We're not judging. We're just observing. But
I'm getting ready to hold myself for my own glass of wine.
That whole thing about, oh, it needs to be done. It needs to be done. It needs to be done. My mom used to always say to me, haste makes waste. We need to get you divorced. We need to do so in an orderly and timely fashion, but we don't need to do that in 1 week's time.
Right.
Because doing that and wanting to rush through is going to cause you to make mistakes, or it is going to cause you to agree to things that you would not normally agree to, which bleeds into my third thing that I'm going to wait on.
Well,
but yeah,
go ahead. Bleed it right into your third.
Well, see, the third thing is when you're in a negotiation, creating a monster, giving and giving and giving until you can't give no more. Creating a monster. Don't do it. If you think that something is reasonable and your attorney says, yep, this is reasonable, this is where we need to push stop, you probably want to do that, because what I find is that and this is not, oh, you're trying to be, an ass and you're divorced. This is you trying to be amicable, right? But I find that when you are too giving, you end up getting robbed. Okay, you end up getting robbed because then they say, "Oh, what else can we get? Oh, he was willing to give. Okay, well, maybe we can get X, and maybe we can get Y, and maybe we might as well throw it, the whole alphabet in there."
Yeah. If you just put it into the, a regular everyday context, we all have that friend or cousin or relative that always wants something from you, and you give, then they want some more, and then they give, and then they give, and then all of a sudden they're like, I want your firstborn, please.
Can I live in your house? You said that that was your favorite.
5 months.
Right. Right.
They are people that have that personality, and once you give them a little bit, then they want a little bit more, and because you said yes, now they want to hear yes again. So I mean, it happens in the divorce context all the time.
All the time. All the time. I was just on a 4-way conference for a collaborative that that was dealing with the same thing, and this person, now see, this is why John has to be on our show soon too. We have to pick out dates. So John says if you give a terrorist a cookie, they will ask you for a glass of milk. Just saying. Yes, John, exactly.
Got milk?
Don't be giving up all the glasses of milk, okay?
Or all the cookies.
Or all the cookie. Don't give him any more cookie once you done filed for divorce now. Don't do it. Y'all know what I mean by the cookie. Anyway.
Sometimes you need closure, honey.
I suppose. You don't need closure time and time again, though. We're gonna get confused. That's the other thing. Stop the sexual and emotional entanglements. Thank you, John. John, you didn't know that your cookie reference was gonna turn into that. Bet you didn't know. Because that confuses things, and you can't negotiate properly, and you're giving out all kinds of wrong signals. And I understand that some people say that they can shut off the emotional component of that. I don't believe them by virtue of all of the years that I've been doing this. Most people are not able to do that, and we find it common that people are still clinging to each other in some kind of way, or concerned about each other in some kind of way. And that's, to a degree, that's fine, especially if you have kids. Right. But don't allow it to impact your ability to negotiate your case.
Yeah, agreed. I agree. The other thing I wanted to mention is that one of the pitfalls of waiting, once somebody's sued, it's never pleasant. You get served with a complaint for divorce, and it sucks. You don't want to be on the end of that, whether or not you knew it was coming. So if there's things that you can negotiate in advance of, that's always better, because you don't have that same animosity of an actual litigation that's coming about. I'm hearing like an echo. Sorry.
That's okay. I agree with you on that. I 100% agree with you.
Right. It's hard. And sometimes, it depends on the tone of the complaint too, because I've seen some attorneys' complaints come through and they just sound aggressive. I try not to put that foot forward right at the beginning, because I want to resolve your case. I know that we're ultimately probably going to at the end of the day, because like 95% or more of cases actually settle without a trial. So, I mean, why not start that tone at the beginning?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Now, see, John.
What did he say now?
I'm going to put it up, people. If your kids are watching, please take your kids away. This is John. Okay, so for the podcast people,
in the parking lot,
John says he had a client who got divorced and then had relations with her ex-husband in the car, and your husband is out here trying to cover you up, John. He's out here apologizing. Stephanie is not sending you a retainer agreement. Not today. Not today, Jason. You two are. Oh. But yeah, all of those types, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And, we're giving advice that people would ordinarily think, oh, their divorce lawyer is giving this kind of, yes, because we actually don't want your cases to take that long. We don't want you to be sitting up there wondering why this is going on and going on and going on. The other thing that I have as a pitfall is wanting to get back at your ex, wanting to win at all costs, and wanting to prove your point at any cost. I had this happen today on a four-way conference where we're almost finished, and the ex-spouse is up there talking about, and that's why when you cheated on me when we first got married and I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. This is not going to help you resolve your case. This is doing nothing for you. And thankfully the client wasn't my client. And the person got their attorney put them on timeout and put them on mute. And so they were up there yelling in the box, on the Zoom box. But it wasn't helping. It was not helping at all. Don't rehash all of that past if you can help it. Talk to your therapist about that, not your divorce lawyers.
Right. First of all, the mute button and with on Zooms is amazing. I love it. And I'm very happy about that little technology benefit that we've gotten since COVID. But also, yeah, you can't do that. You're only artificially prolonging your case. You're making it more aggressive, and you are blowing up any chance that you might have to settle it. And I do think that you should talk to a therapist. Everybody should talk to a therapist when you're going through a divorce, because these are things that you should be paying them to talk about. And they will give you 100% of their attention. Gosh,
They will. And you can schedule as many appointments as you want with them for way less money than you are going to pay us, because John just said here, but you want to keep my case going because you make more money. No, boo-boo. We actually don't want to keep your case going for that or any other purpose unless we have to. If most lawyers, if they see that you are being financially disadvantaged or that you're being taken advantage of in some kind of way, or that the settlement is just not equitable, then we will likely say, okay, you can't settle for this. But at the end of the day, our clients are the ones who steer the ship. And so we're not just going to be up there arguing for no reason unless you tell us that there's a basis for that argument.
Right. No, 100%. Why? And this is my opinion. And this is what I say to people that kind of say, oh, well, you're a lawyer, you're just after my money and that kind of thing. And it's really just people. It's not usually my clients that are saying that to me anyway. But I get so many more referrals if I actually go through your case quickly, expeditiously, and I've quoted you a certain retainer or a replenishment of a retainer. And then at the end of the case, I'm giving you a little bit of money back. By the way, you're remembering that and you're going to give me a referral because you know I didn't abuse you.
Right. So yeah, we don't want your case forever. No. We do not.
By the way, divorces are really long and tedious anyway. If I have to have cases for 3 and 4 years, it's horrible. It's horrible. Nobody likes each other at the end of it.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And then, the other thing that gets me about sometimes about the negotiations is nitpicking the heck out of something, like pick, to the point where we're now talking about a $31 a month benefit. Seriously, people, do not spend hundreds of dollars a month, an hour on attorneys to gain a picayune benefit.
Yep.
It's not worth it. And at the end of the day, you start looking a little bit unreasonable. I understand that you may want to save your $40 a month. Sometimes. Yeah. Like cut a coupon or something to save the $40. You're going to spend a whole lot less money trying to find those coupons than you are getting me to argue about that small amount of money.
And by the way, you also lose a level of credibility if you're fighting over every little thing. Then when it's time for something to fight over something that's really big that you really care for, it's going to be like in the pot of all the things that you want. And yet, okay, here's another thing that he or she wants. Like, just add that to the mix. Why is he or she getting everything he wants when that one thing is really important, but you had to argue it tediously over the last 10?
Yeah. Yeah. If your attorney tells you that you shouldn't be arguing over a particular thing because X, oh, wait, Steph is handing out checks? What? Listen, let's go, Steph. You got some checks for me too. Run those checks, Stephanie.
Dollar
I got
bill,
summer camp to pay
y'all.
for. Run those checks, Stephanie. Oh, see, John is saying, because John, if you all don't know, is a recovering matrimonial lawyer, but he also does mediations, is saying that he and his partner met on a case where people spent about $5,000 arguing over a crock pot and a fishing pole. So you know what I tell those people? I will give you $100 credit for the crock pot. And a fishing pole, fine. Some good fishing poles are like $500, right? 400, $500. I'd rather give you a credit for that than to argue on it.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, because you can go out and get it with that same money. It doesn't. Everybody can have a crock pot and a fishing pole.
And by the way, the courts never want to get involved in those kind of arguments to begin with. I always remember, and I tell people, remember the Beanie Baby case, like years and
Yes,
years
I
ago, like
do.
decades ago, where they had to sit in the courtroom and they had to go through and like pick them what, because the court does not want to get involved, but they want to inconvenience you as much as possible because they need to know that you're being that ridiculous.
Exactly. And they also think that if you're that inconvenienced that you'll realize that you're being ridiculous, but a lot of people don't.
They
So,
don't.
so that's how we end up all these years later with memes still showing those two in
Yes.
the courtroom on the floor parsing out the Beanie Babies.
Yep.
Ridiculous. How much are Beanie Babies worth now? I need to look that up though.
I don't know. There's some apparently that are worth like a lot of money.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
maybe I should have been on the floor with them. So what's your next one?
My next one is actually a little bit related to COVID. So the courts are all backed up right now. Depending on the county that you're going to, it's really hard to get a trial. If you have a complex case, you really do want an in-person trial instead of a Zoom trial. If you have an easier case, a Zoom trial is not such a problem. But you want to make sure you can resolve your case, through maybe mediation, arbitration, four-way conferences, which is our conferences between the two attorneys and the two clients. You don't want to wait until the court's open to try to resolve your case because we don't know when you're going to have an actual in-person case. They can just get pushed back. And I know some clients and some attorneys, unfortunately, they wait until the next court event date to actually do something. Your attorney and you should try to work your file as much as you can. You don't have to wait for the court to say, okay, we have a settlement conference. We have an early settlement panel, which is an opportunity to resolve your case with volunteer attorneys that are going to hear your side of your story. You don't have to wait for all of those things to happen. Exchange your financial information, get the ball rolling so you don't have to be inconvenienced and be at the beck and call and the whim of whatever the court is going to decide to do.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I had a conversation with a client about this today. Look, part of your negotiation process is making sure that you have all of your financial ducks in a row and that you've exchanged your documents. And my client said to me, well, this is becoming like too much. Yeah, but you want the documents from your spouse, right? So we have to expect that the other person is going to want documents from you. And if you don't have that exchange and you're up there negotiating, you actually don't even know what you're negotiating about. Right. You have no clue. You could be negotiating against yourself and you have no idea as to whether you are or not. So yeah, exchange the documents, give up the documents. And no, you don't want a judge to touch your case. John says you don't want a judge to touch your case, especially if you want it done quickly, COVID or not. And that's that's true. Look, I have a case right now where I just recommended to my client that we actually do go into court. But that's only because the adversary is being very, very slow, being very, very obstinate, not getting the documents that I need. We're taking way too long to get stuff done. But that adversary has a proclivity for doing that and is known for doing that. Right. So before we even get into the case, I tell you, look, hey, this person over here, kind of sort of dragging their feet. And that's the only reason why I really tell people to go into court, is if they really have something that they cannot resolve because the adversary is not going to make it happen.
Right. We had, I filed a case in January, a civil case, and we had it arbitrated in end of March, and we have a decision and everything is already resolved and done. That would never have happened if we stayed in court, because you get
No.
you kick the can down the road a little bit and there's an exchange of discovery. I was lucky enough to have an adversary that we exchanged discovery. We agreed on some things, and then we immediately said, let's try, an early mediation. And then if that doesn't work, arbitration, because we knew that especially on the civil part, family part's a little bit different, but with the civil part, things are taking a long time to get a trial date. And this was not something that we thought was even going to have a trial. So yeah, it goes quickly.
Yeah. So, John, you up here with a camera or something? He said when when attorneys see our day on the other side of the case, they're like, "Oh shit, we is screwed." They scared, John. Listen,
I'm surprised he didn't talk about cutting somebody, because that's what he loves to say. That we love you, John.
We do. But yeah, the other thing I can say is, if you're in a negotiation, do what the hell you say you're going to do. Mm-hmm. Because if you're in the negotiation process and we can't rely upon your word, recognize that nobody thinks that they're going to be able to get to the end of a negotiation relying upon your word. Don't say that you're going to provide a doc, or you're going to pay this bill, or you're going to enroll Johnny in aftercare and blah, 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 and then not do it, not follow through. That is going to throw a complete monkey wrench into your negotiation. Because remember that negotiations are based upon trust. And if people can't trust you, they are not going to negotiate with you.
Mm-hmm. And you know what else is a pitfall of negotiations, kind of on that same point, is when you keep changing your mind. We go along a path and we think this is how we're going to do things, and we've already agreed and we have the concept, but we just have to tweak it a little bit. And then we get to the end of the road, or like the end of that path anyway, and all of a sudden you change your mind and you say, no, I don't really want to do that. Let's, what else can we do? And what else? Well, we lose, our relationship suffers from it. The attorney-client relationship suffers from it, because it's very difficult as an attorney to go back in and talk to the other attorney again and say, yeah, I know we've been saying yes, yes, yes to all of this, but now we're saying no, maybe halfway. We lose credibility, and it's really difficult. Yeah. And it costs you more money, because now we have to renegotiate everything all over again. And the other side, by the way, is going to do the same thing. The other side is going to say, you changed your mind on this, now I'm changing my mind on that. And what kind of recourse do we have?
Because what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yep. There's no credible argument to say, no, you can't change your mind on that. We've been doing this all day. Nope, you changed your mind too. So done. I'm
gonna let you read this one, Stephanie.
John says, oh, Stephanie will cut a bitch. I've seen it. Very scary. I am from LA, so
things happen.
No humans were hurt in this story.
Yeah. So, we can talk about this for the longest. The bottom line is that you want to fully engage in your negotiation process, and you want to be a person who can be relied upon. You don't want to be, and you want to be forthcoming. This doesn't mean that you have to give your whole negotiation strategy to your adversary. No, well, nobody's saying that, because in the event that your negotiation really can't work, we don't want to leave anything like that out there.
Right.
But you want to give it a good college try, for the purpose of making sure that your long term is what you want it to be.
Right. And you want to tell us everything as your attorneys, everything, because then we can know how to represent you. We might hold some things back as a negotiation. We might hold things back because we have a trial strategy in the event this negotiation and settlement doesn't work. But you shouldn't hold things back from us, because then we don't know what we don't know.
That's right.
And can't protect you.
We cannot protect you from a circumstance that we don't know occurred or exists, we can't. If you don't tell us that you haven't filed taxes in the last 10 years, or you're too embarrassed about the fact that you filed for bankruptcy, or you have another child that your spouse doesn't know about. Ooh, juicy. You have another child that your spouse doesn't know about because you don't want to rock the boat, and you have a whole child support order for that spouse and for that child, and your spouse doesn't know about it. Yeah, we need to know these things.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we'll present it in a way that insulates you as much as we can, if we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's our job, and that's the service that you pay us for. So instead of hiding those things, make sure that you tell your attorney. Most of us have heard it all. If we're not baby lawyers, which we have not been baby lawyers in a long time, even though we look as young and fresh as daisies, but we have been around.
So one of the things that we were going through on a different chat thing was we have like 3 decades of experience at this point. And when I saw that in writing, I was like, what? No. But
really?
It's true. Yeah.
I know. I saw that and I said, oh, okay. You texted me or emailed me about it. And I'm like, what? I never even thought about it.
I was like, is this accurate? I'm not sure.
That's right. We've been kicking people's ass in matrimonial and family law for what, 31, 3 some odd years combined. We'll just leave it to your imagination. It's 30 something. So we're those chicks. So it's cool. And we look good. So, we. Thank you for watching Undoing I Do with Stephanie and Ade. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Instagram, both at Undoing I Do. Where else can they find us?
They can find us at YouTube. You can subscribe and get alerts for every video that comes up on Thursdays. And pretty soon we're going to have an announcement.
Big, big, big. Thanks for watching.
Have a great
night.
See you next Thursday.